Thank you, Senator Conroy. Senator Ludlam.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'd just like to follow up one area that I'm not completely clear on, where Senator Conroy left us, the procedural threshold for putting the ADF onto the streets if an emergency becomes severe enough. Can you just talk us through the overlay, I guess, between security agencies making those judgment calls as to whether they feel they're able to handle a situation and the political decisions to do so? Because obviously it's a pretty big thing.
So obviously I don't think there's political factors in on it.
Okay.
It's security factors. So the factor, there are a number of ways to do it, but in this situation it would be the security people responsible for the response, in this case New South Wales Police, would look at it and go, no, we need a greater expertise. And there are some situations where that might be the case. A shopping centre, some of the bigger areas rather than a confined cafe like this. And then we put the request up through the state government to the federal government. There's nothing political about that. That's just the
purely security decision.
Pure security decision. So no politics would overlay that.
Okay.
There is the ability for the Commonwealth to declare a terrorist event, I think it's the correct term, if it was a broader issue. For example, if suddenly things were starting to appear across states, and so this looked more than just a one-off, this looked like a coordinated event. So there's ability to do that.
And that would automatically invoke the Army, potentially?
No. It's still, that would be with the attorney. So then there's what would then be, as a part of that, would be either a request or direction for the ADF to become involved. And then that's where we go to the call-out procedure. And I won't take you through the call-out under Part 3 AAA of the Defence Act. It's quite detailed, but it requires a number of ministers, including the PM, to do this and work with the Governor-General. Yeah. Or if the Governor-General's not available, there's a combination of ministers that can do it, just in case people aren't available at the time and the response isn't, and the response is required quite quickly. Then that comes to me. I can always position forces without that in anticipation, and that's just something I can do with CDF. I can move people around, and in this case, my team are already thinking about what might be required anyway, rather than going cold from the start of the call-out.
Okay.
And then at call-out, that's very formal, because that's a big statement, bringing defence in for a domestic security issue. At call-out, I remain in command of the force that does it. The force would move in and get a handover from the on-scene commander at the time, and then when they're ready to act, we would look to get direct action authority, unless something started to happen right then, and the on-scene commander says does the request, but actually has to invoke the action. But it is a very set process, and then at the end of it, there's a formal hand back to the civilian authorities.
When was the last time those processes were invoked in anger in this country?
We've never done it.
No, I didn't think so.
I don't believe, not under this particular legislation. Remember, Army was called out, I think, after the Hilton bombing back to clear railways, but under this particular legislation, it hasn't been done.
But it still feels as though the direction to deploy into a domestic security situation could come from two directions. It can be invoked from, in this case, the New South Wales Police could have made that request, or it could come presumably from the National Security Committee. Yes,
but for it to come down from the National Security Committee, it would have to be considered that this was a larger problem than what you had just seen at the Lindt Cafe, I believe. And again, because it's hypothetical in the way that there's no set answer, because it depends on the situation, but you have to make an assessment of the force that might be responding and their ability to respond. And again, in this particular situation, it was well within the response capability of the the New South Wales Police.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily know that at the time.
And again, we're sitting a couple of months after the fact playing Monday morning quarterbacks. It's easier to look in hindsight, whereas this is evolving second by second for those people on the ground.
No, I think the example in France is quite instructive.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to take you back to some of the things that you raised in your opening statement, and you might have canvassed a few of these things already with Senator Conroy. Can you just talk us through the deployment of the Special Operations Task Group into Iraq? There's reporting back in January that they're bored, they're hanging around in Al Minhad. This isn't what they, signed up for, which I presume is well and truly in the past now. Mm-hmm. There was also speculation that they hadn't really moved much beyond Baghdad Airport. How much time are they spending outside the wire, and not what exactly, but can you give us in general terms?
Yeah, I won't say where they are. They're obviously the main part of the body is at Baghdad Airport. Excuse me. We do have some forward deployed personnel. There's been no operation to date where they've gone outside the wire on that operation. And you may remember that we did say that the advise and assist mission was down to battalion level, and therefore if a battalion level headquarters moved out that they were working with at the time and it was required, that they could go out with them. I don't believe we've had that situation yet.
That they haven't had that situation yet, but it's still
in fact, we haven't had that. Not that I don't, but we haven't, because I would be aware of that. What they are doing is building the capacity, which is a bit of it's not the BPC mission that we're talking about. The mission is evolving to as a part of a coalition in the broader ISF sense. This is with the Iraqi Special Forces, but we are actually building their capacity and training them as well. So we've provided specialist training for them for about 200 plus special forces in an urban type environment in their training centre in Baghdad. We have joint terminal attack controllers in the Joint Operations Centre there as well, and with their headquarters helping them integrate air support into the operations that they might be doing, wherever that might be. And then also controlling through use of Predator or Reaper UAV aircraft, coordinating air support for the fights that they might be doing.
I was going to come to that a little later.
I thought you might. I thought I'd just raise it. And they're not drones.
We'll get it out of the way now, if you like. But just before we move to that, in the Afghanistan context, training and mentoring either regular army units, police units, or Afghan special forces actually meant when they went outside the wire, we would go with them.
That's right, and this is a different mission.
And who defines that is where we set the boundary? Is that a decision from the Prime Minister?
It's the Iraqi government.
It's the Iraqi government.
So there's a sovereign government there that have requested us to come in and provide a level of support, and they put the bounds on what that support might be.
Okay, but that's a decision presumably that could change from their point of view.
It could, but it wouldn't change my authorities, because my authorities come from the Australian government.
And they've been set at the same place?
At the same place, that's right.
You would need to go back for a change in your authorities if the Iraqi government changed its view? If
they changed their view and they asked us to do it differently, government to government, then I would have to go back and change the authorities that I have for that mission.
That's fairly clear then, thank you. I just want to come quickly to what the Air Force is doing, and then I do want to bring you to that question of the, looked like the UAV training that was underway. On their way out of Syria and into Iraq, there was reporting of a lot of US military equipment that had been looted and sort of brought into service by Daesh. What is your understanding of the kind of anti-aircraft weapons that could be turned against Australian aircraft or allied aircraft?
You said US weapons?
US equipment or Iraqi equipment, yeah.
Out of Syria?
Or in Iraq, as they moved into Iraq.
Yeah, they did. So I wouldn't just say it's US equipment. I'd say it was the equipment that the Syrian armed forces might have used, which I don't believe is American. I think it's...
more likely Russian, but on the Iraqi side of the border, a lot of US military equipment.
Yes, there was some US military equipment there. So The concern that you have is in the surface-to-air threat. I would think that's...
Yeah.
So the surface-to-air threat that is there is predominantly anti-aircraft artillery, so various calibres of weapons from small arms through to 12 millimetre and up, and man-portable missiles as well. So they are the weapons that our forces have trained against and are employing their current tactics in theatre to negate.
It was disputed, I think, by US and Jordanian authorities that IS had shot down that Jordanian fighter plane late last year.
That's right.
Do you have a view one way or another?
I'm not at liberty to comment on that. That's a Jordanian answer to be able to give.
All right. And how long do you have there before you have to rotate those aircrew and aircraft out of the country?
So we have already rotated aircrew in a group. We've got a new rotation in now.
So is that on like 5 months or something? 5 or 6 months?
4 months.
Yeah.
3 to 4 months. Yeah. And then aircraft will rotate as we need to do it.
Okay. Does that mean there are other aircraft in the UAE on their way in, or how does that actually look?
How to look in a rotation? Obviously, we don't pull them out and then put the new aircraft in. We would rotate new aircraft in. We haven't done that yet, but we will do that over the next couple of months.
If we're potentially going to be there for another 2 or 3 years, I think the conversation was tending towards this morning.
Well, we will have to rotate aircraft through, and we've got that as a part of the plan. So we didn't commit to this without understanding the sustainment requirements for the air task group.
Okay. And finally, on this topic, you obviously have to plan for decisions that are somewhat out of your hands in terms of escalations or new deployments. What kind of state of readiness are you being asked to maintain to be open or flexible for sending more people into Iraq?
We have the same level of preparedness and readiness that we normally sit at, and I won't go into those. They are quite classified, as you'd expect. But there is no decision yet from government to do any further operation, and therefore we haven't changed the readiness of our people away from what we currently have.
Okay. All right, well, let's come to the issue that you raised before. A piece that ran in the Wall Street Journal overnight. Australia says military is training with US Reaper drones. Are you familiar with that article, firstly?
I am, and I have Deputy Chief of Air Force here to be able to answer the questions.
All right, great.
For that. Yeah.
So maybe do you want to just come to what, firstly, is in that article? So this is in the context of training with the United States military for a capability that Australia doesn't currently possess. Is there anything you want to tell us about the intentions of Air Force? Are we about to purchase these machines, or why is this training underway?
Senator, Air Vice Marshal Gavin Davies, Deputy Chief Air Force. At the moment, our UAS operations have been centred around in the medium altitude, long endurance category around Heron 1 in Afghanistan. That aircraft operates effectively in a tethered sense, that is line of sight. So we operate it pretty much within a restricted distance regime.
Line of sight?
Well,
I visited Heron in Afghanistan, and it didn't look as though they were having to keep an eye on them.
No, it is operated beyond line of sight, that's true, but it's not operated with a SATCOM link. So it is operated pretty much within a restricted range. So when we bring Heron home and we begin to look at what our next UAS options are, which include Triton, they will be in an operating environment that includes SATCOM, includes extended range, and includes increased operational considerations. Therefore, we thought it prudent to then look at beginning to build that base, and for us that option became available to operate with the United States.
When you say bringing Heron home, those aircraft, I understand, were of Israeli make, and we didn't actually purchase them. There's some kind of leasing operation or something.
That's correct.
So what do you mean by bringing them home?
So after Afghanistan operations completed in December last year, we have bought 2 Heron vehicles and continued the lease back to Australia so we can maintain those skills that we gained in Afghanistan.
We purchased 2, and how many does that make the balance?
No, we continued the lease on 2 of the aircraft that we had in Afghanistan.
So there's 4 in total.
No.
I thought you said purchased. I thought you said bought 2.
No, did not purchase. We continue the lease. We do not
Continue to
own
lease them.
any Heron vehicles.
Where are they based at the moment?
They are at Woomera.
Okay. I'd put to you there's a really big difference between flying surveillance aircraft like Triton or Heron and training with Reaper drones, which are designed to go out and kill people. Is there the intention to acquire weaponised drones for the Air Force or anybody else?
Senator, there is no intention, there's no program at the moment that has us acquiring or operating Reaper drones. There is some consideration at the moment for what future UAS systems we will need, but they have not yet been developed or put to government.
And Senator,
Go ahead.
There's the same difference between flying PC-9s on training and going out and flying a Hornet and doing the same thing. So I
But
think
Australia has both of those capabilities.
yes, we do. We don't. We fly US Air Force aircraft that we don't have on exchange as well. But I think where you're coming from is the unmanned aerial system debate, and again, they're not drones. They don't go out and operate autonomously. They have a person in the loop, and they operate under the exact same rules of engagement and laws of armed conflict that we do with our manned systems.
Sure. I guess I use the term drones loosely. And these are quasi-autonomous. You can set them and forget them for a period of time, even though you don't need
But
people
they
in
will
the loop.
they will not detect, classify, target and engage a target without a human doing
Sure. Although that is in the pipeline for other,
that. We're not talking about the pipeline, we're talking about today.
as you wish. Is this a conversation that's occurring against the backdrop of the Defence White Paper, for example? Who do we talk to establish whether this is a procurement decision that is in the pipeline?
So there is no decision yet from the government on this, and there's no decision on whether it's in or out of the force structure review that will inform the white paper that government considers later on this year.
Well, it sounds a little vague, all right, so that's not a decision that's been
Hang on,
made.
let me. I'll make it less vague. So it is an option that is being considered
Right.
as a part of the force structure review that will inform the white paper, but there's been no decision on the white paper.
That part is clear.
Sorry.
That's no, that's all right.
Yeah.
I still want to draw the distinction between, because the discussions around Triton have been around for years. I think that conversation started under the former government.
Yeah.
The Australians, how many people are training in Nevada, if the article's
Senator, there are
correct?
6.
6? And can you just tell us where they sit within the Air Force hierarchy? Who are they? You don't have to name names, but...
I'll get accurate ranks for you, but they are junior in rank.
Okay. And are they training to use these drones in a surveillance capability, or are they learning how the weapon systems operate?
So we have 5 people learning how to operate the vehicle, and we have 1 engineer. And they are going through an already established training program for that is established by the United States. It's the same program.
I might come back a little later and pursue some of these, but that's all I've got for now. Thanks, Senator Back.
Thank you very much. If no others have questions, we will stop then at 12:25 and resume at 1, and Senator Williams will be asking questions. Thank you, Minister. Thanks, Mr. Richardson. Thank you, CDF.